Well, hello there. It is Monday, the 1st of July, 2024, and nearly forgot that I'd undertaken to do this sort of post-session check-in. So, from the point of view of the giver or the practitioner, don't want to leave anybody unplugged, but yeah, today we had a session where my client had returned for a session, for the first of a session of three, and we've had a bit of a break, a couple of weeks, maybe. It feels like so long has passed in between, and I don't really want to stay on a long time making a dinner out of anything, but it was a really wonderful session just to meet up with somebody whom has been coming regularly here for the past few months. And one thing that got my attention in a message the night before, they had begun to perhaps refer to some of the things that had been happening in their life recently. And they said, well, maybe I'll save it up till I come and see you. And of course, that is so wonderful to feel the trust and the feeling that I can let go in the presence of another, to be entrusted with that level of confidentiality. And I had replied that I hope I had made that part clear. In retrospect, I probably didn't say much about that side of things. Trusting that that is understood, but more so, I thought perhaps it was a new idea that, one didn't have to save up, stuff in order to qualify being here. And I own that that's not their meaning at all. But if in case it did occur that it felt like, events don't warrant me having a session with you, when really, the honest to God truth is, we are leading ourselves all the time. Like it or not, we are actually coaching ourselves all the time internally. So that includes all of us, whether or not we're aware of what's happening behind the scenes, behind these eyes, or not. If I'm continually telling myself, oh, I can't afford it, oh, why am I even going? There's so many more people that have so many more needs than I do, and I'm not so badly off, I'm all right. I'm coaching myself to not be good enough. I'm coaching myself to always feel like I need to be more. I'm not enough somehow, exactly as I am. And in a way, it's also reinforcing a belief that I need to warrant, to deserve support in terms of, sessions or treatment or counseling or coaching. So just beware that this is going on all the time behind the scenes. And again, as ever, it's not to say that anything is wrong or right, rather that knowledge is power and power is choice, as they say. Once I know that this is the case, that I am making choices all the time, little micro decisions, whether or not they appear on the radar, then I have the power to know that I create my life exactly as it is. If I'm out of cash, if I'm burnt out, if these are all the consequence of, and that's consequence without any negative connotation. That's merely the result, the simple, based on physics result of my choices. And in these moments that I've made over the past hours or the past days or months. And something that was interesting recently, I came across my friend Rachel Burns, who is a beautiful life coach and therapist, specializing in, well, it used to be disordered eating and body dysmorphia. I believe it's really moved into larger realms now. I had sat in for a free webinar this morning, on financial wellness, basically on balance within our financial life and our inner and our outer life. And the idea that addiction is a chemical process, in that the way I think, these grooves that go round and round, probably not physically, but you know what I mean, my brain, and that always lead me to the same outcome, and lead me to a habitual response to a stimulus. For example, feel bad, feel kind of not quite fully grounded, reach for bar chocolate, or, that doobie, or whatever you go for. I think I need to pack my bags if this doesn't go away. I know this is not how most people think of it, but I'm gonna go on a plant medicine journey to purge what is this niggling in me that I know is to do with my past life, or whatever it is. Whatever it is, it's reaching for something that is beyond the vessel of my own physical form right now. I'm a great believer, as you may or may not know, of physical activity, of movement, oxygenating this physical system, and that trips the circuitry into our emotional well-being, our mental health. Once we get out and we get active physically, it's a baseline component of well-being as a physical-based being. So the idea that addiction is based along what we think, these same grooves, these same movements and routes in our cognitive faculty that we often visit, that we often walk along, these are the shadows that lead what is called addiction. So just that thinking that I deserve treatment, or I deserve support, I deserve coaching or counseling, that in itself is an addictive thought, or the thought that I can't really deserve it, but I'm gonna plunge in anyway. And I know I've been guilty of this for sure, and it probably won't be my last time either. But just recognizing that it's a choice that I make every time. And in disrupting the mechanism that was set up when the original stimulus occurred in my lifeline, in my timeline, in my life, that made me turn to this or that or whatever it is that I turn to when feeling triggered or a little bit of the trauma response is activated. These, whether it's distraction or neglect or dissociation or freeze or collapse, or feeling competitive or wanting to just run away from everything, these get built in. And to disrupt such things, my friend Rachel says, at first it will take what is called traditionally willpower. So I don't know about that, because I feel like I don't have very much willpower myself at all, but maybe I do. And I don't know, perhaps labeling it as such already brings a charge, along addictive tendencies to think I'm not good enough, I'm not enough. Whatever it is, just knowing that can be helpful, actually, when seeking to disrupt something that has been in place for some time. A new habit, a new mid-year resolution to just be more active, just to get out in nature more, to hand it over to nature, to let nature share some of the weight, the burden that I carry. That in itself at first will feel painful. For example, a month or two ago began doing some team sports, and if you know me at all, that has not been a feature of my life, physical life anyway, for a lifetime. I've, I guess, always indulged more and find myself just naturally falling into containers and spaces where art and creativity is practiced. And that kind of flows out of me like a second language, or indeed, to be honest, a first language. Sometimes the world of cognitive verbal communication just does, I really feel incoherent in that. So creativity and artistic efforts and practices are a real comfortable medium for me. But a little while ago, I felt like I need team sports in my life, and I don't know where this came from. The only thing I can think is that with all the trauma response work and training that I've been immersed in recently, that layers of me are falling away, even if I'm not aware of it. Even if while I'm choosing to go to bed earlier rather than hang out with my sons, which is pretty much my most favorite thing to do in the whole wide world. But I'm not even as such a noble, dignified being, as a sort of an animal response of like, no, it's going for midnight. I want to be a being that seeks and makes happen an earlier bedtime, for example. So these things happen then without me necessarily tracking them, the progress of these things, the evolution that is so gradual. And yet in this case, it seems kind of sudden. All of a sudden, one day I'm like, I need some team sports in my life, and yeah, and then so it came about quite organically. I didn't actually go around looking for it, of course, being, as I said, quite creative myself. Well, I don't know how this exactly links, but I can see a connection. I just thought, okay, I'm just going to have to make something happen for people like me who don't consider themselves sporty or athletic or even fit, physically fit. So I decided I would begin to invite people, maybe everybody, maybe just women, to play with me. And I had borrowed this from my friend. Is it still here? No, it's not. Anyway, it was a frisbee because I was thinking like, what can cause the least amount of harm, and which is the most wholesome, like, organic and easy. That's for somebody who doesn't move a lot. What is a natural thing to do? Like, playing hurling or camogie probably isn't the most kind of, I flowed into that naturally. So I thought, yeah, maybe if we throw an old frisbee around. And I don't know, a couple of weeks after that, I borrowed a frisbee. And then, it came about this whole, why don't you join the ladies' Gaelic football team? And it took a couple of weeks of me kind of like, that must have been a joke. Anyway, so just to say, doing that has thrown me into outside the pale of my comfort zone. So it's outside the city limits of what I've always felt was my comfort zone. And I was relieved that, thanks be to God, I have whatever level of unfitness I have. I was able to keep going during a training session that I didn't have to like sit down for, to in fact nobody did, to be fair. Nobody ever really felt like, wait, I need to stop, I need to, sit it out or anything. Nobody. And it didn't matter what age or body shape, everybody was up for it. And I think I'm the newest newbie to the team, but it just felt like no matter how unfit we say we are, there's something about team sports. You're out there, interfacing with a ball and other human beings, and to me, with this coat on, I can say that, we are brought back when we're in that kind of combination, in that constellation, to a younger time in our identity, and at that time, our, frontal lobes were not so online. We were more akin to, in a way, like simple animals. We were just surviving. All our needs were met, usually, when we were younger. Please God, you had parents that provided the basics like food and shelter and warmth and comfort to some level, some degree of emotional stability, even if that was a threatening kind. Anyway, you know what I mean to say. Nobody's perfect. Nobody had a perfect upbringing. And yet there was, whatever that was, even if it was disturbed, there was a stability of disturbance if it came to that. But I'm hoping rather that you had a nice childhood and youth. Anyway, I think it brings us back to that, and that somehow brings out something. And even if not, then because some of the team members are actually quite young, so yeah, an innocent kind of a more innocent frame of mind, I suppose, when all you're doing is engaging with this ball and trying to adhere to the rules of the game. So I didn't mean for this to be a little advert to play more sports, but just to say, yeah, it's interesting once we are open to just unpacking a little bit. What is this thing about like I don't deserve, or I'm going to work myself up to a therapy session. I know that in my case, I don't feel that is what my client was saying at all. but it's just an interesting dynamic that does exist. I know I'm guilty of it for sure. Feeling like I need to deserve a certain something. And yeah, if the financial side of recompense is a factor, then yeah, perhaps it's not exactly unfounded to feel like this isn't just something that I can, push out without much thought, that I can just avail of therapy. So therefore, it is a kind of a reward, actually. I actually know women that are involved in an alternative economic system community. And when one or two, in fact, two or three of them had received, a gift of economic means, and they suddenly had a lump sum of cash at their disposal, then they availed of a series of therapy sessions. And of course, that's really beautiful, to recognize that the best investment I can make is in myself and with partnership with somebody else, recognizing that I need help and I would like help. And I would love to connect with somebody whom I recognize as a professional in this field of supporting others and receiving this treatment, receiving this experience. Yeah, and that I suppose there comes a point why therapy is more stigmatized towards the older person is because usually, when we've had so many decades turned around in our lifetime, we recognize all the times that we have been burnt out, that we have had a meltdown, that we have had a spin out, that we have just, been frozen or collapsed in, re-traumatization probably, or still trying to make sense of, sort of like a post-traumatic childhood or post-traumatic young adulthood. So one day, perhaps these kinds of terms will be laughed at and totally obsolete. But for now, they very much are alive. It does seem to be the lingua franca of intentional living, our therapeutic language, and my trauma story, my biography in trauma, both of navigating within it and of the shadow and the early chapters when I was lost to it. On that happy note, I'm going to leave you for now, and I want to send wishes for a beautiful month ahead. It's the 1st of July now, and in Ireland it is, as ever, just quite unpredictable weather-wise. Oops, I'll just show you what I mean. As the day is sort of, it's not fully wet, but hasn't been fully dry either. So I'm grateful for what we do have, and I look forward to sharing more, experiencing more with you out there in real life, hopefully running around with a ball, maybe even. Be well. Like Slán Inis.